Hello, learners, and welcome to another episode of Simple English Listening. Today, I'll tell you about the life story of a very famous leader, politician, social and human rights activist, Nelson Mandela. New vocabulary in this episode are the words hut, expel, strike, boycott, arrest, found, and protest. Remember, you can now listen to Simple English Listening as a podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and all other major podcast apps. But if you want the subtitles, the text, then please watch the YouTube video. I chose today's topic because it's interesting and inspiring to hear how some people have been able to create great change. And by learning about the life of Nelson Mandela, we can also learn about the history of South Africa in the late 20th and 21st centuries. And also, we can see the changing opinion globally, worldwide, of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, what's fair and what's not fair in a modern society. Some of the language might be a little bit difficult in today's episode, but the more times you listen, the more you'll be able to understand. Nelson Mandela was the first black president of South Africa. He was the president between 1994 and 99. He became the president after spending 27 years in prison, in jail, with no freedom. He won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1993, and after his life in politics, he started many organizations, groups, charities, trying to create positive change in society around the world. So, where did it all start? Mandela was born in a tiny village called Mvezo in 1918. Maybe my pronunciation is not correct there. Mvezo, I think it's that. Where he grew up, there were no roads, only footpaths, paths for walking. The family lived in a small hut. A hut isn't just Pizza Hut. A hut means a small, very basic house. A hut usually only has one room, and it's made of simple materials such as wood and clay and mud. They lived simply. Water came from small rivers and streams. All cooking and washing was done outdoors, outside the hut. Mandela was the first in his family to go to school. His teacher gave him the name Nelson. It was normal back then to give African children British names in the British-influenced school system. When Mandela was 9 years old, his father died from a lung disease. Lungs are the organs you use to breathe in and out. Your lungs, you have one part of them on each side of your chest, your lungs. The chief, the leader of his tribe, was an old friend of his father's. So, after the father's death, the chief looked after Mandela and took him as his own son. He adopted him. It was during this time period when Nelson became interested in African history. He would listen to elder tribe chiefs who came to the palace on official business. These elders would tell Mandela stories of how the African people had mostly lived in peace until the coming of Europeans. He was told that the people of South Africa used to stand as brothers until the Europeans broke that brotherhood. The elders told him that the people of South Africa would share their food, their land and their water, but instead the Europeans would take these things for themselves. These were the ideas Mandela was introduced to as a young boy. In college and university, he was excellent at sports, at track and field, and at boxing. He attended the Harvard University of Sub-Sahara Africa, the southern half of Africa, the University of Fort Hare. His peers, meaning his classmates, were the brightest students of the region. But, unfortunately, Mandela was expelled from the university for being in a student protest. Okay, new word. Expel means he was kicked out of school and was not allowed to continue attending lessons. Another new word, protest. A protest is when a large group of people get together and disagree or object with something. Often in protests, people hold signs, they shout, they sing songs, and do speeches. For example, right now, there are protests happening in Hong Kong, right? People are getting together on the streets in large numbers, and together they are disagreeing and objecting, holding signs and doing speeches. Okay, so back to our story. Mandela was expelled for being in a protest at university. This was a stressful time for him, a difficult time. And on top of that, his adoptive father found a wife for him, arranged for him to be married. So Nelson ran away. He ran away from home. He moved to the capital city, Johannesburg. He worked in many different jobs, such as being a guard, an office clerk, all while completing his BA bachelor's degree by post. Post is a writing and sending and receiving letters by post. After his BA degree, he studied law full-time at the University of Wits. One term we must first learn before we continue this story is apartheid. Apartheid describes a collection of laws in South Africa. These laws started in 1948 and ended in the early 1990s. These laws were created by the white-only government. Apartheid laws made it so white and non-white peoples of South Africa lived separately. In fact, the word apartheid in Afrikaans, the Afrikaans language, it means to be apart. These laws meant that black South Africans could not work in government, could not attend at many universities, could not vote, could not get full citizenship, could not share white facilities. Interracial marriage was banned, prohibited. Black South Africans had to wear special identification, ID, if they wanted to go travel through many areas of South Africa. For example, most parts of Johannesburg, you would need an ID to travel through if you were a black South African. After completing his bachelor degree by post, Mandela joined the anti-apartheid political party in 1942. It was called the African National Congress. To summarize this part of his life, he directed and led non-violent acts against the white-only South African government and its apartheid laws. Acts Mandela directed that he led include boycotting. Boycotting is when groups of people refuse to buy things, when they decide to stop buying things, to hurt or to punish the economy or a company. To boycott. An example, recently in Korea, people boycotted Japanese products. Many Koreans stopped buying Japanese clothes and beer to hurt or to punish the Japanese economy. Yeah. They boycotted Japanese products. Mandela led strikes and other acts of non-cooperation A strike is when groups of people refuse to go to work. They decide to not work. A strike. Around this time, in 1952, Mandela and his university friend and fellow ANC party member, they founded the first black law practice. New word, founded, a verb, meaning to start a new company or organization. For example, Bill Gates founded Microsoft. Nelson Mandela founded the first black law firm. It was called Mandela and Tambo, and they gave free and low-cost legal advice, help for ordinary, non-represented black South Africans. Most of Mandela and Tambo's work challenged the apartheid laws. Originally, at the beginning, Mandela believed in non-violent, peaceful protests. However, his beliefs changed after police shot and killed 69 peaceful black protesters. Around this time, Mandela started to believe that armed struggle was the only way to end the apartheid laws. Armed struggle can mean using military action, using weapons, using violence. Mandela co-founded, so he co-started, a military organization called Spear of the Nation. Spear of the Nation. It was an organization that wanted to use armed struggle and guerrilla war to try and finally end apartheid laws. In 1961, Mandela led a 3-day national workers' strike. A strike is when people do not go to work, yeah? And instead, they do not go to work, and then they usually protest, holding up signs, meeting in large groups and giving speeches. Mandela was arrested, okay, was taken by the police, probably handcuffed. He was taken to the police station, arrested for leading this workers' strike and other crimes. His other crimes were leaving the country when he was not allowed to leave the country. Also, they said that Mandela and his group were planning treason meaning to overthrow or to change or destroy the government, and sabotage. Nelson Mandela and other leaders of his political party, the African National Congress, they were sent to prison, to jail, for a life sentence. Some people in South Africa actually, they refer to Nelson Mandela as a terrorist, yeah? Not everybody likes Nelson Mandela, actually. So for 8 months, Mandela's group were in the courts. Before going to prison, Mandela made a speech, finishing with these words: "I have loved the idea of a democratic and free society in which all people live together in harmony and with equal opportunity. It is something I hope to live for and to achieve. But if it needs be, it is also something I'm prepared to die for." Mandela then spent 27 years in prison. 27 years. We'll continue this story in the next episode. Let's quickly review some vocabulary. Okay, we have hut, expel, protest, boycott, to found, strike, and arrest. Tell me, which is a noun, which means a simple house made of simple materials, such as wood and clay. Okay. A hut, H-U-T. Okay, which verb means to be kicked out of school so you cannot continue attending your lessons? Expel. E-X-P-E-L. Expel. If you remember, Mandela was expelled from his school for being in a protest. Okay, which noun is for if a group of people who refuse, who decide not to go to work? A strike. Strike. S-T-R-I-K-E. Noun. For example, the trains are not running today. The workers are on strike. They are not paying us enough money. Let's go on strike. What is a verb you can use to describe starting a company or starting an organization? Okay, found. Found. F-O-U-N-D. Example, Ray Kroc founded McDonald's in 1955. Apple was co-founded by Steve Jobs in 1976. You can say co-founded for when more than one person founds a company. What's the verb? A noun meaning to get together with a group of people and publicly disagree or object to something, usually holding up signs, doing speeches. Protest. Protest. P-R-O-T-E-S-T. What is the verb and noun for when people as a group refuse, decide to stop buying things to hurt the economy or a company? Boycott. Boycott. B-O-Y-C-O-T-T. What is the verb for when the police take you? They put you in handcuffs, normally, and take you to the police station. Arrest. Arrest. A-R-R-E-S-T. Okay, so if you enjoyed today's content, please like the channel, subscribe, and click the bell. Okay, see you next time. Hope you enjoy that.